Please be seated. Well, it's my pleasure to welcome all of you to this very special Court of Honor. The purpose of this Court of Honor is to award the Hornaday Silver Medal to Hunter Remington. Hunter, after 45 years in scouting, you have given me the first. It's quite an honor to be not just present at the awarding of a Hornaday badge, which I've never been at before, but also to be able to be here to present the badge. That's quite something to give me a first. And I think we have to talk a little bit about how rare this is. Since the Boy Scouts of America was founded, there have been 2.3 million Eagle Scouts. There have been about 1,200 Hornaday Award medals given. According to that source of all knowledge, Wikipedia, most of those have been bronze medal. There have only been 114 silver medals awarded. I guess we're up to 115 now. In a typical year, about 55,000 Eagle Scout awards are presented. There are 1 or 2, sometimes 3 silver Hornaday awards presented. It's hard to say this as an Eagle Scout, though all of a sudden it seems like Eagle Scouts are just a dime a dozen. I've also heard it said that there have been, well, far more Congressional Medal of Honor awards given out than Hornaday medals. I probably shouldn't have said that last bit, and Scouts should go home and look up the equivalent of, or look up the definition of false equivalence. But I mean, let's face it, Craig Mites was a pretty tough opponent, but it didn't shoot at you, okay? But the bottom line is that this is a very, very special award. Now that you know how rare this is, I'd like you to learn a little bit about the award itself before we go ahead and present this to Hunter. William T. Hornaday was an early conservationist, and he was actually instrumental in saving the American bison from extinction. We wouldn't have American bison or buffalo if it had not been for his work. He was also a taxidermist at the Smithsonian and founder of the National Zoo. As part of his efforts to promote conservation within Boy Scouting, he created the Wildlife Protection Medal in 1914 when Boy Scouts was just 4 years old as an organization in this country. After his death in 1937, that's when they renamed it the William T. Hornaday Award. Now, to get more information about the Hornaday Award that Hunter has earned, we have 3 speakers this afternoon. First, we'll hear about the various awards and the process that he went through. The next speaker will discuss the specifics of the requirements that Hunter met. And finally, the last speaker will discuss the impact of his efforts. So first, to give us more background on the various Hornaday Awards and the Hornaday process, I'd like to call on John Feaster, who put in over 20 years as Troop 1201's committee chair and advancement chair, and served as Hunter's project coach for the relatively uncharted waters of the Hornaday Award. John?
Thank you, John. Good afternoon. I'm John Feaster, as Tim mentioned, and until recently was the committee chairman, advancement chairman, and Eagle Scout coach for the troop. I'm honored today to discuss the learnings Hunter and I received as we worked our way through this award he will be receiving today, because it was a learning experience for me too. This was a first and probably my last. But first, let me discuss what is the Hornaday Award. I have to admit, when Hunter first came to me and expressed interest in the Hornaday Award and would like me to help him, I knew nothing about this award. In all my years in scouting, I had no exposure to it, nor did I know anyone that had. I had to do a lot of research and learn quickly. Fortunately, Hunter had already done a lot of that research, because he had already started looking at it and saying, hey, I think I want to do this. Well, what are you looking at, Hunter? So he started sharing some of the websites with me. Basically, the Hornaday Award is a conservation award given for exceptional conservation projects within scouting. The award has as Tim mentioned, was first made available to Scouts in 1917. That's right, the award will celebrate its 100th birthday this year. And like Tim mentioned, there was only been 1,200 awards given out. So that means there's basically only been 12 awards a year, which is kind of unique. There are many levels of the Hornaday Award available. First, there's a unit award administered by the local council, and I want to point out it's local in this case. He's not going for the unit, although I think the unit is getting the award. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. It's made available to troops, teams, and crews. The unit carries out at least one local environmental conservation project with at least 60% of the registered members of that troop participating. Then there's a Hornaday badge, again administered by the local council for Boy Scouts. The Scout completes 3 of the 6 required merit badges, plus 2 others. The Scout must plan, lead, and carry out one project from the list of 8 categories. Then there's the Hornaday Bronze Medal, administered by BSA National. It now moves up to National, which is another new experience with me, because I'd always been used to dealing with the council locally. Now all of a sudden we're dealing with BSA National. It's available to Scouts. The Scout must complete 4 of the 6 required merit badges plus 2 others. Then he must plan, lead, and carry out 3 significant projects from the 8 possible categories. Then there's the Hornaday Silver Medal, which is what Hunter got, which is administered by BSA National. I'm going to cover the details briefly and shortly here. But there's also, believe it or not, Hornaday Awards available for qualifying adult leaders within Scouting. I'm not even going to cover that here in this meeting. I was amazed how many different levels there were of Hornaday Awards. Hunter had to complete all 6 of the required merit badges, plus 3 other merit badges from the approved conservation list. Hunter then had to plan, lead, and carry out 4 significant projects from the 8 possible categories. And those categories are energy conservation, soil and water conservation, fish and wildlife management, forestry and range management, air and water pollution control, resource recovery, also known as recycling, hazardous material disposal and management, or invasive species control. Preliminary meetings were held with Peter Danon and of the Isaac Walton League to begin defining possible projects. In some cases, Hunter needed to get these projects underway without knowing if they were going to qualify for the Hornaday Award. We were in a time constraint and also seasonal constraint. Final approval for Hornaday Conservation is done by the Hornaday Conservation Advisor, and we needed one. Hunter also needed to verify from this advisor that his Eagle project, which he had already done, was qualified as one of the 4 projects. In some cases, the Eagle project does qualify. Determining who the Hornaday Conservation Advisor would be became my biggest challenge. I got the names and contact information for the last 3 Hornaday Awards given out within the Bay Lakes Council. Well, the Bay Lakes Council only gives out one of these awards about 1 every 3-5 years. So we're trying to find former Scouts who are now adults gone. I think we found one of them, huh? Who really couldn't help us. There is virtually nothing on the Bay Lakes Council website about the Hornaday Award. Mike, that's something you might want to fix. If you go to the council website and put in Hornaday Award, watch what doesn't come back. It literally finds nothing of any use. So the question for me was, who do I contact to find out who can be the Hornaday Conservation Advisor? The council office told me I had to talk to BSA National. So I got contacts at BSA National and called BSA National, which is kind of like calling the federal government. BSA National said, well, you got to talk to your local council. The finger pointing going back and forth. I even resorted to contacting our advancement chair within the district, who really didn't know either because they weren't familiar with this Hornaday Award and the whole process involved in getting through this thing. local district came back and gave me the name of Ray Perry as a possible contact, but even Ray, when we contacted him, he's into conservation, but really we didn't know much about the Hornaday Award. Finally, after much delay, the council came back and gave us Mike Hibbert's name and contact information, saying Mike is the person you want to contact. Hunter contacted Mike Hibbert and set up a meeting. Hunter, Peter Danon, and myself traveled to Mosquito Hill Nature Center to meet with Mike. This proved to be a very productive meeting. We started to get I had a lot of questions. Hunter had a lot of questions. We all had lots of questions and no answers. It was a very productive meeting. Mike reviewed Hunter's project plan and gave the approval to proceed. Hunter was advised that the final reports from the projects would follow the same format as the Eagle project, because that was one of our questions. What are we actually submitting? When Mike came back and told us Eagle project format, that was a fit for me, because how many of those have I done? That was a good. It wasn't something strange to me. We also learned that the final review and decision would be made by BSA National. That was new to me, because locally we go through an Eagle Board of Review. So the reports were going to be sent to BSA National and let them review it. The estimated cost of Hunter's projects was in the neighborhood of about $7,000, and it was primarily for purchasing materials and supplies. Finding a source for these funds became Hunter's first challenge. Peter Danon felt that by submitting a grant request to the Isaac Walton League Regional area, it stood a good chance of getting $5,000 approved, if submitted in a timely fashion with enough detail. Peter also felt that the Brown County chapter of the Isaac Walton League would make up the difference. The problem was Hunter needed to get those grants approved and get the money in hand. So he attended the regional meeting of the Isaac Walton League to explain the projects and request the needed grant money. It was around that time that Lee came to me at one of the troop meetings concerned about the sheer size and cost of this project. He was concerned, probably more than concerned, it was like panicking, because he began to understand what Hunter was signing up for. My comment to Lee was, if he really wants to do this, let him try. What's the worst that can happen? I don't know if that set Lee at ease. But it kind of told me, just let him do it. And what's the worst that could really happen? Failure. No, failure. You don't get it done. But the one thing in life I'll tell you, failure is your best learning experience. When you fail at something, you really learn. Hunter received his grant money, and the projects were able to proceed. Since most of you here in this room were involved in these projects, you know that a significant amount of time, energy, and planning went into these projects. The projects were completed, the final reports were written, Hunter reviewed them with Mike Hibbert, and they were sent to BSA National for their review and acceptance. Unlike going for an Eagle, there is no board of review. The final reports and application must stand on their own, which is kind of a nervous thing. Is there enough stuff in there to satisfy somebody at a national level that the boy is qualified? Many months went by, didn't they, Hunter? As we were wondering whether they were accepted or not. Well, here we are today, celebrating another Hunter Remington accomplishment. He now becomes the first scout to get the Hornaday Award in Troop 1201. I now return the podium